Assalamualaikum, I'm Iman. In this video, we are going to build AppContext and toast notifications for our app. Let me show you an example first and then I will explain why we need AppContext for this. So we will show a toast notification when the user has successfully submitted the form or if there is any problem in it. In our case, when we register or sign in the app, or we have successfully created a hotel for example. And not only for success, we will also display it when there is an error. So for example, if there is a problem with the backend and the user is not created. So for the toast, we will have an icon and a message. What is AppContext? Think of AppContext like a central backpack that your app carries around. Inside this backpack are all the tools, maps and nodes your app needs to function, like access to files, settings and services. Why is it useful? If your app needs to open a file, check the internet connection or get a setting, it grabs it from the AppContext. Different parts of your app can use the AppContext to talk to each other or share data. AppContext lasts as long as your app is running, so it's safe to use for things that need to stick around, like saving user preferences or managing long-running tasks. Imagine your app is a school. Each classroom has its own supplies, but the main office has the master key, student records, and school-wide announcements. If a classroom needs something big, like calling a parent or checking a student's file, it goes to the main office. Why is AppContext useful? You don't have to pass the same data through many layers. If one part updates the data, others see change instantly. Great for things like user login status, theme language settings, etc. In Android, if you use the AppContext to do something that's meant for a screen, it might not work properly. That's like trying to hang a poster in the hallway using classroom tools. It's not the right fit. Now that we know about AppContext and what we are going to build, let's get started. Back in the VS Code inside source folder, create a new folder called context and inside we will have a file called AppContext.tsx. First thing we have to do in here is define a type for our context, which holds all the properties that we are going to expose to our components. So basically all the things that our components can access. So let's say type AppContext. The first thing we are going to put in our global state is a little pop-up notification, which is called a toast that will be visible in the top right corner of our app. So it will hold a message and a type to see if it's an error or success. So inside we will have a function that lets our components specify these things. So show toast, which will be a function that doesn't return anything, and it will accept toast message as a prop that the components will define, and it will be a message and the type of the toast. So let's create it. Type toast message. It will accept a message which will be a type of string and a type which will be either success or error. Let's define its type to toast message. So whenever our components call showToast function, they have to pass in an object that contains a message and its type. We will see it working later and how these types come into play to make it easier to call this function. So for now we will set up our context. So after this AppContext type, we will say const AppContext equal React dot create context, and it will be a type of AppContext that we have defined in here, or it could also be undefined, and we are doing this for type safety. And its default or initial value will be undefined, because when the app renders for the first time, the context will be undefined. So you may ask why we have to define initial state. It defines the structure and default value of our context, helps avoid undefined errors when components consume context before it's populated. Initial state acts as a type reference, ensuring consistent usage across components. If a component accesses context outside a provider, the initial state can serve as a safe fallback. Okay, we have created the context. Now we have to create a provider to wrap our application with it, so that our application has access to the things inside a context. You can think of it as a parent component which stores all the state, uses hooks, etc. that provides important things to all the children components that the children will take in as a prop and make a use of it. In our case, they will provide a message and its type, whether it's success or error. So it will wrap our app and accept all the components as a children prop. So AppContext provider accepts a prop from which we will destructure children, which will be type of React node. So basically all the possible types. So the AppContext provider accepts a prop from which we will destructure children, like we do in a standard React component, and it will be type of React.React node. So this is what we call inline type. If you are accepting multiple prop, you can define type using type or interface object, but since we are accepting a single prop, we will use inline prop. Now in the body of the provider, inside return statement, we will have opening and closing AppContext.provider tag, and inside we will render children. And inside we will have to pass in a value. So show toast, for now we will leave it as undefined. Now we will import it inside our app's main file. So in here we will have AppContext provider. Let's import it. Import AppContext provider from ./context/appcontext.jsx. It's tsx. Now let's wrap our app with it and save it. So now our component tree starting from app component and any components it renders have access to everything in our context. Now back in AppContext.tsx, at the bottom we will create a hook that lets the components easily access the provider. So in here, export const useAppContext equal to an arrow function and inside we will create a variable called context equal to useContext that we import from React, and inside we will pass AppContext. After this, we will say if there isn't any context, we will throw an error, throw new error that will say useAppContext must be used within an AppContext provider, and after this we will return context as AppContext. Okay? Now the question is why we need this hook. The first reason is type safety and autocomplete. By asserting context as AppContext, you get full IntelliSense support in TypeScript. No need to manually type useContext, AppContext everywhere. The second reason is cleaner imports. Instead of importing both useContext and AppContext in every file, you just import useAppContext. The third reason is centralized logic. If you ever need to add error handling, you can do it once inside this hook. The fourth reason is improved readability. useAppContext is semantically clearer than useContext AppContext syntax. It signals you are accessing app-wide context. Let's save it. Now when the components need something from the context, they can import this hook and get things easily. This is a standard approach to set up the context. This custom hook wraps the built-in useContext for a specific context. In our case, AppContext, useContext AppContext accesses the current value of AppContext. Context as AppContext is a TypeScript type assertion to ensure the returned value is treated as the correct type. The hook returns the context value, giving you access to shared state or functions defined in your AppContext provider. To make it more robust, especially in strict mode or SSR, we add a runtime check. This ensures developers don't accidentally use the hook outside the provider. So we have set up the context and exposes a hook that the components can use, and we also expose a showToast function that accepts a message. Now in here, instead of undefined, what we can do is console.log. So showToast will accept toast message and we will log it. So toast message and save it. Okay, so we have set up the context and expose a hook that the components can use, and we also expose a toast function that accepts the message that the component provide and will log it. Now let's see how our code works. So let's go to the register component. In here we will import our AppContext hook. So inside register component we will say const curly braces equal useAppContext. Like this. Let's import it. Import useAppContext from context and AppContext. And in here, if we use IntelliSense, inside curly braces, Ctrl plus click, as you can see, we have access to the toast function thanks to the AppContext provider, and we can access it anywhere in our app. Okay, so we have access to it and we can make a use of it inside a mutation, for example, that will be related to the backend. So when the user fills the fields and hits submit button, then our backend will validate it and create a user in the backend, and based on if the information user has provided is valid or not, we will show the error or success toast. So for now, since we are only building the front-end part, what we can do is directly show the toast. Let me show you what I mean by that. So inside handle submit, after the console, we will use if-else statement. So if there is data, we will show toast, and inside we will provide a message. Registration successful, and we will also provide a type which will be type of success. Oops, we have to provide an object like this, and after if we have else statement, and in here else we will show toast. For its message we will say, in here we also have to provide a message. So in here we will say message like this. Here also message that will say registration failed, and it will be type of error. So we could either use error or success type. So in this case it's error. Now let's save it and open up our terminal, and let's go to the booking folder. So cd booking and run npm run dev. If we press Ctrl and click on this link, so here is our application, and in here let's go to the register function. So this is our app that we have created in previous videos. So if we go to the register function, let's fill in the form. Confirm password and open up the inspect and open console. Let me zoom it. Oops, it can't be zoomed. So if we try to submit the form, just a minute. So let's submit our form. As you can see, here is our form data, and in here, as you can see, we have message that says registration successful and its type. We have checked it to see if our context is working. Of course, later we will use it in the mutation hook. That is the main reason we created it, but we don't have the backend logic to work with the mutation. So for the test purposes, we have used if-else statement. Now let's also check if our error message is working or not. So for that, what we will do is comment it and remove the data, and in here create a variable called data and set it to null. Now if we check and try to submit our form, as you can see, for the message we have registration failed and our type is error. Okay, so let me undo it. Okay, so now we had assured that our components have connected to the context successfully. Now let's go ahead and create a toast component. So inside components folder, create a new file called toast.tsx. In here, first we will define types for probes. So type toast probes. It's going to accept a message which will be type of string, and a type which will either be success or error. We will pass these probes from the component where we want to show a toast message. Now let's create our toast component. It will accept message and type as a parameter. message and type, and it will be type of toast props that we had defined in here. A parameter is a variable passed into a function or method, and they are generic to functions and methods. Its purpose is to define what a function or method needs to execute. Don't confuse yourself with parameters and props. If you want to learn the difference between them, let me know in the comments. Now in the return statement, create a container div that will hold all the content and a children div which will position it. Inside it we have a span tag that will show the message coming from props. Now depending on the type of message, we will apply styling. So inside the toast component before the return statement, we will create a variable called styles, and we will check if the type that our component defined is equal to success, ternary operator. Then we will apply the following styles, else, so it's the error type. We will show these styles that we will define in here. So if type is success, we will show these styles. So fixed, because we want our toast to be in a fixed position, let's define it. Top 4 and right 4. So the toast will be on the top right corner, and you can think of it as a gap of 4 from top and right. Z50. So we will make the toast come in front instead of going behind the header. And padding of 4. Border, to give the border, and its color will be border green 400. And let's also give background, so BG green 100. And for the text, green, and its shade will be 600. We will also give shadow to our toast, so shadow of LG, and maximum width MD. We are getting an error. Let's see. This comparison appears to be unintentional because the type and string have no overlap. This condition will always return false since JavaScript compares objects by reference, not value. So let's remove it. We don't need it. And now the error is gone. Max width medium utility sets the maximum width of an element to a predefined value. Using max width MD on a toast component ensures it doesn't stretch too wide on larger screens. The content remains readable and visually compact. Now let's define styles if the type is equal to error. So let's copy it and paste in here, and we will change just a few things. So border color will be red, and its color will also be red, and for the text, red 600. Okay, now let's apply these styles to our container div. So in here, for the class name, inside curly braces, we will apply styles. Okay, so now we will apply timer to our toast so that it will close after a specific time. How that will work is our AppContext is going to hold state, which will determine whether the toast is displayed or not. And inside toast component we'll have a timer, and once the timer reaches 0, it will call a function to update the state in the parent that says hide the toast component. Let's write the code and see how it works. So inside toast component, before the styles, we will use useEffect hook that we will import from React. and inside we will create a variable called timer and call setTimeout function. So setTimeout, and we will pass an arrow function, and inside we will call onClose method. It is camel case, and as the second argument to the timer we will pass 5000. So it's the timer of 5 seconds basically, and when the 5 seconds are over, it's going to run the code that is inside the setTimeout function. And inside this function we have called onClose function that will come from props. So let's define this onClose function in toast props. After this type we will say onClose. That will be a function that doesn't have any parameter and doesn't return anything, and we will destructure it from our component props. So now we have a toast that will stop when the timer reaches 5 seconds and call onClose method. That will close the toast notification. Now outside the setTimeout function we will return an arrow function and call clear timeout, and inside we will pass our timer. Now outside the setTimeout function but still inside useEffectHook we will return an arrow function. We will call clear timeout method and pass in the timer. So it will reset the timer. So how this works, when the toast will appear, the timer starts, and after 5 seconds are up, our toast will be closed. But still the timer is stopped at 5 seconds. So we have to clear it so that it will be set to 0, and then it can start again for another toast notification. So after the last curly brace, we will add a dependency array and pass in onClose. It will make sure that this useEffectHook will only run first time the component gets rendered and when onClose function changes. Let's save it. Now inside AppContext, before the return statement, we will add useStateHook. Which holds the state of toast. So whether it's being displayed or not, let's import it from React, and we will initialize it as undefined like this, and let's also define its type. Its type will be toast message or undefined. Now inside AppContext.provider, before the return statement, we will say if toast state is set to true, then we will display toast component. Just a second, let's rename it as capital, okay, and let's also export it. Export default toast. Save it. Now inside AppContext, let's import it like this, and we need to provide prop which we get from state object. So in here, message is equal to toast.message and type which will be toast.type, and onClose function. So this gets called when the timer is up. So we will set toast to undefined. Okay, so whenever the timer runs out, it's going to set toast state to undefined. That causes a re-render, and the logic is going to run if the toast state is true, and it's going to see that the toast is undefined and the statement will be false, and because of that the toast component will not render. Now the final thing to do is we have to change our state variable whenever the component sends us a new message and type. So instead of console.log, we will set toast to toast message. So in the register function, we will call showToast function and we will pass a message and a type. And in the app context, instead of logging it, we are setting those values state. And once the value is set into state, it means that the toast has a value. Then in the JSX, because the toast state variable has a value, then our toast component gets rendered. And we had passed a message, type and onClose function, and because our toast component gets rendered, it's going to start a timer of 5 seconds. And after 5 seconds, it's going to call onClose function, which we pass from toast and set toast state to undefined, which causes a re-render and the toast is undefined. So the condition is false, so it will hide our toast component. And in here, we just display the message and based on the type, we are applying styles. Now let's test it out. Oops, we have made some mistake. Let's go in here and it is fixed. Like this, save it. Okay, so as you can see, we have our toast notification, and if I scroll, its position is fixed and it disappears after 5 seconds. So by putting the toast in the app context, any component, no matter how big our app grows, will be able to go easily into app context and display a toast message. So anytime there is a code that you want to expose in the entire app, it's a good idea to put it in the app context. So not everything goes into the app context. It comes down to how you decide to structure your state in the app. Now after the registration is successful, we want to navigate the user to the home page. So for that we will use useNavigate hook. So in here we will say const navigate equal useNavigate and we will import it from React router DOM like this. Now we will call it after the success toast. So navigate, and inside the string we will pass the route where we want to navigate the user. So we will say slash. So we will navigate the user to the home page after the registration. So on success will show a toast and navigate the user to the home page. And because we placed the toast in the context, it's going to stay visible even after the page navigates to home page. So let's save it and see how it works. Okay, as you can see, our success toast is here and we are navigated to the home page after the registration is successful. Now let's also check how our error toast looks like. Again, we are doing this because of test purpose. We will actually use it when we will create the backend part and we will validate the form and then create the user in the database. So let's save it and see. Let's go back in the register function. Let's save it. As you can see, registration failed. Now let's style our toast a bit and add some icons. So in here, class name, flex, items, center. So flex will make our icon and our message in one line, and item center will align it in the center, and justify center. And for the span, class name, text large, Font size will be medium. Flex, because we will provide a icon in here. Items, center, and gap of 3. Now inside this pan, what we will do is, if type is equal to success, we will show an icon that is called FA check circle, else we will say IO close circle. To use these icons, you first need to install React icons library, and after that you will be able to use it. Let's import them. At the top of the file, we will say import FA check circles from React icons /FA and import IO close circle from React icons /IO5. Let's also provide the size of our icon, size 20, and for the error 26. If type is equal to success, we will show a check sign, else we will show a cross sign. Save it and let's test it out. Let's save it. Here is our error. Now let's also check our success toast. So back in the register, let's open it and let's comment it, and in here we will have data. Save it and let's try to save again. As you can see, we have our success toast. Let me show it again. As you can see. Now let's push our code to GitHub. So in here, if we go in the source control, as you can see, we have 4 changes. First, we will stage all changes and then write a message. So let's say AppContext and toast notification. And we have committed. Now let's sync it, or you could just press the arrow icon that was shown before and click on commit and push. So sync changes. Okay, so as you can see, we have published our code. Now let's go and check. So here is our latest commit, AppContext and toast notification. As you can see, if you want to know more about GitHub on how to create a repo, update it using commands, or clone it, you can check out the step-by-step guide for GitHub on my channel. If you have any questions, ask me in the comment section. So that's it for today. If the video helps you, press the like button, comment, share, and subscribe to UI Universe. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.